the microphone here. I'd like to call this meeting to order, November 8th, 2021. Approval of the minutes is first item of business.
So moved.
Have a motion?
So moved.
I have a second from Roy. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion.
One abstention.
One abstention. Motion carries with one exception. And managers report. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call Chief Rumsey to the podium. We have a presentation for you this evening and swearing in of our two newest officers. Chief?
Thank you, sir. Councilors, good to see you this evening. Thanks for just a couple minutes of your time. I know last time I was here, we talked a little bit about some of the changes that we've experienced in the police department that resulted in some hiring and some new promotions. And so tonight we have two new officers to swear in that have started with us since I was here last. So without further ado, I would ask Officer Nick Descanio to come on up. And Nick, if you want to stand right here. As Nick's making his way up, just share a little bit of information with you about Nick. Nick served a total of about 13 years in the United States Coast Guard, a mixture of full-time or active duty time and reserves. He's still in the reserve. Nick was with South Portland for 6 years prior to coming to the Cumberland PD. And he recently took over as the lead law enforcement liaison with the Wreaths Across America. So he's entering into his really busy time right now for the next month until the convoy takes off to head down to Arlington to lay the wreaths at tombs in the cemetery. He'll be working on coordinating the entire convoy across, how many states, Nick, are you crossing? Yes, so weaves its way down, stops on the way down to do presentations and wreath ceremonies in different towns in New England. And so in every state where they go, Nick's got to help coordinate with local law enforcement to get that convoy where it needs to go safely. And so it's a pretty big lift, and here he's doing a wonderful job. So Nick's a quiet, professional guy, and we are, I think, very, very lucky to have him. So I would ask Tammy to come up and swear Nick in if you're willing to do that, and then I'll pin on his badge.
We'll share this microphone a little bit. All right. Ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me, please. I, and then if you'd state your name,
I, Nicholas Descanio,
do swear
do swear
I do swear that I will support the constitutions of this state
do swear that I will support the constitutions of this state
in the United States,
and the United States,
so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof,
so long as I continue a citizen thereof,
that I will faithfully discharge,
that I will faithfully discharge,
to the best of my abilities,
to the best of my abilities,
the duties incumbent on me
the duties incumbent on me
as a Cumberland police officer,
as a Cumberland police officer,
according to said constitutions,
according to said constitutions,
the laws of this state,
the laws of this state,
and the charter and ordinances of this town.
and the charter and ordinances of this town.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And next, Officer Chris Schofield. Chris, if you can come on up and stand on the X. So Chris also came to us from South Portland. And short note about that, so I think last time we were here, you all met Jake LaChance, who was promoted to sergeant. Jake worked in South Portland prior to his time here with us. And, oh, okay. Come stand right here. And so Jake had working relationships with both Nick and Chris, and recruited them to come here. So I'm not sure that he's a very popular guy in South Portland right now, but appreciate him keeping an eye out for talented and committed professional police officers to come join the Cumberland team. Chris had 10 years on with South Portland full-time prior to coming to Cumberland and started just last week. He's doing field training right now with our group, and he'll be with his training officers for about a month, just acclimating to the roads and the way we process our paperwork and things of that nature. Chris was a member of the Southern Maine Regional Emergency Services Unit down there and is an instructor in a couple of different disciplines. And kind of small world story, Chris also, prior to getting into law enforcement, was the assistant director for security at the Maine Mall, where our former captain, Dave Young, was the director of security prior to coming to work here. So Dave gave Chris very high marks and a great recommendation to come and work with us. So we're also very excited to have Chris on the team, and I would ask Tammy if she's willing to come and swear him in. You want him to be right here for that part? too?
Yeah, we can't see him otherwise.
Okay, sure.
Better off this way. Thank you. I, please state your name,
Christopher Schofield,
do swear
do swear
that I will support the constitutions
that I will support the constitutions
of this state
of the state
and the United States,
and the United States,
so long as I shall continue
so long as I shall continue
a citizen thereof,
a citizen thereof,
that I will faithfully discharge,
that I will faithfully discharge
to the best of my abilities, the duties incumbent on me
the duties incumbent on me
as a Cumberland police officer,
as a Cumberland police officer,
according to said constitutions,
according to said constitution,
the laws of this state,
the laws of this state,
and the charter and ordinances of this town.
and the charter and ordinances of this town.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. The one thing I did also want to add under manager's report to the council, I have been trying to contact our partners at the Maine Department of Transportation to talk about the accident that happened up on Main Street last week, where a young student was in a crosswalk crossing at Farwell Ave and was struck by a car. Fortunately, the accident didn't result in any hospitalization. A little bit of an inattentive driver and stopped in time, but did bump into the young man, and our medical staff did check with him, and all is well. But obviously, as you can imagine, a lot of concerned parents, a lot of people concerned with traffic safety, especially along the school zones and corridors along Main Street and Tuttle Road. We have been in the middle of ironically, a safety study along the entire Main Street corridor with the PAX region and with DOT, and those results hopefully will be ready sometime this fall. But in the interim, what I asked DOT is if they would be willing to gather here and do a neighborhood meeting for concerned parents and folks to just talk and hear their concerns and hear their ideas so that we can formulate a comprehensive plan when that plan comes before you. We are really doing a lot of inventory gathering, and we've noticed many of our ramps are non-compliant for ADA purposes, but that wouldn't have prevented anything that happened last week. But, you know, crosswalk striping, proper signage, are there areas where there's enough pedestrians crossing that we might want to consider some additional type of pedestrian safety in those areas? So those are all things that will be on the table. I am trying to get DOT to meet with us sometime after Thanksgiving, and hope to have more information as we kind of confirm a date. But I know there were folks that have sent you folks letters as well, and I would just appreciate some patience while we coordinate that meeting, and I think it will be a productive meeting. No one wants to see this happen, and I think it's a good conversation for the community to be involved with.
Thank you, Bill. Anybody have any questions of the manager? At this point, we have item 4, public discussion. Discussion is for comments on items that are not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. Rebuttal comments will be limited to 2 minutes. Public discussion topics may be brought up again under new business for further council discussion. Is there anybody here to speak before the council on items that are not on the agenda? See none. Item 5, legislation and policy 21-113, to appoint Whitney Miller as Communications Aging in Place Director. Bill, are you keying this up?
Absolutely. Well, it's my pleasure and privilege tonight to recommend to you for appointment as our Communications Director and AIP Director, Whitney Miller. Whitney has been a clerk with us, working with Tammy, stealing another one of Tammy's rising stars. And she has done an awesome job. She has basically done a great job on the community side as well. Her background, as I pointed out in my cover memo to you, has basically kind of led her here almost to this place. She has also been our backup person for communications for the last few years. When Eliza had been out or on vacation or whatever, Whitney was able to jump in and help. She was with Make-A-Wish for several years, where she coordinated many, many volunteers, hundreds. And her personality is such that she is very good. She's a great listener. She's a great communicator, and somebody, I think, who will do an outstanding job in this position. The unique piece of this is the cooperation with Aging in Place as well. She'll be coordinating some of her time with recreation and with our Aging in Place program. She'll be taking over for Sarah, who's basically going to step back more into a lesser of a part-time role and helping out in the department there. But Whitney will be overtaking the programs, overseeing the ride program with our volunteer coordinators, and also has been very instrumental in our the latest senior tax rebate program, as you know, and then the one that we have teeing up in the near future. So she has been, coincidentally, if it wasn't really planned, we didn't know Eliza was leaving. She had been involved with a lot of the programs that now she finds herself kind of leading, hopefully in the near future. So Whitney, if you wouldn't mind going to the mic and just answering any of the questions. The heat lamps get a little warm underneath that light there, so be careful, because the council may have for you, and just introducing yourself to the town of Cumberland.
Hi, everyone. My name is Whitney Miller, as you guys all know, and I'm very excited about the opportunity to take over the wonderful communications that we already have here in the town of Cumberland, and to work more closely with Aging in Place. Advocating for a population is really part of my background and passion, so I'm excited to be able to do both things. And I live here in Cumberland. I love this town. I'm looking forward to helping us continue to advance, so I thank you all for the opportunity. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Tom?
Whitney, I know you very well, and we do appreciate everything that you're doing. It is amazing, the work that you do. So, thank you so much, and I'd like to make a motion.
I can't, that, you talked about working up front, and we've always said in the council that the ambassadors to this town are the people that work up front. It's not us.
No.
It's the ambassadors and people. Whitney, I don't know how many people have come to me and said how great of a job you've done at the front, and you've done it long. And for me, when this position came available, I'm sure like most of the council, this is a no-brainer. Just give it to her. But, I mean, the right thing happened, and I'm glad to see the right things happening tonight. So congratulations. You're a good person, and more importantly, you do a great job for the town of Cumberland.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I just have to add a comment too. I've lived here a while, and we always talk about the guys leaning on the shovel at Maine MDOT employees, and I've never seen anybody in this community leaning on a shovel or not pulling their weight, and I know you exemplify the enthusiasm and the work ethic that Cumberland is world famous for. So, anyways, Tom.
I move to appoint Whitney Miller as Communications Director and Aging in Place Director as well.
A second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Congratulations.
And now, Mr. Chair, we'd like our town clerk to swear her in, only because it's official, Tammy, you will lose her tomorrow, so.
And that's why I forgot my words there earlier. Went over and wrote them down, so I don't do that again. Would you raise your right hand and repeat after me, please? I, and state your name,
I, Whitney Miller,
do swear
do swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of this state
of this state
in the United States,
and the United States,
so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof.
so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof.
I,
I,
Whitney,
Miller,
do swear
do swear
that I will faithfully discharge,
that I will faithfully discharge,
to the best of my
to
abilities,
the best of my abilities,
the duties incumbent on me
the duties incumbent on me
as Communications Director
as Communications Director
and Aging in Place Director
and Aging in Place Director
for the town of Cumberland,
for the town of Cumberland,
according to said constitutions,
according to said Constitution,
the laws of this state,
the laws of this state,
and the charter and ordinances of this town.
and the charter and ordinances of this town.
Congratulations.
Tammy, how about a photo, or Whitney with the kids?
And your husband.
Yeah.
That guy. And mom and dad.
Congratulations.
Tammy, this is a good reflection on you as well. It really is.
Absolutely. And when I came to Tammy to talk to her about it, she goes, I know. Yeah, we had a very talented group of people that applied too, that we interviewed, and it was a pretty good process. And I think Whitney did a great job. And what's always great is when we can, promote people from within our organization that do such a great job. And she's no exception. So Whitney, thank you.
Okay. Item 21-114, to hold a public hearing to consider and act on a zone change request for property located at 10 Old Gray Road, tax map U21 Lot 2, from Village Office Commercial 1 Zone, VOC1, to the Village Medium Density Residential Zone, VMDR, as recommended by the Planning Board. So, those of us who short memories, or the public who doesn't know what's going on here, this application became before us by the owner of this lot to basically construct a second buildable lot out of this one piece of land. Contention being that there was no viable entrance for this lot for commercial use. And so the council looked at this, recommended it be sent forward to the planning board, and the planning board acted on it, and now it has come back for council attention. And is the applicant here this evening? He is. Would you like to address us on anything pertaining to this matter?
James Banfield, owner of 10 Old Gray Road. Nothing specific, but if you guys have any questions, I'll gladly answer anything that might come along or comment accordingly.
Have you tried to sell this piece of land as a commercial piece of property?
I have not at this current time, because I know that there's no entrance that can be on Route 100. There's no commercial viable ability to be at that specific spot.
It could be accessed by Old Gray Road, though.
It could be, but as a commercial use, from my understanding, no commercial use really wants to be on Old Gray Road. And certainly, since that's a residential neighborhood, that I can't see any sort of commercial use from that access point.
Any council, Mark?
Yeah, thank you. What's the property next to it there on the map?
The one that has Emerald Drive,
Yes,
that is, what are there, 6 apartments? at that
apartments.
location.
Okay,
Yep.
so also residential.
Yes,
Okay.
but given the square footage that we have, we can't really build any of that sort of stuff there. And also, the entrance could be there, but there's not enough land to do that sort of project.
And where is your current property on that?
It's the blue triangle.
The blue.
Yep, right, the blue triangle right there.
Right, I'm sorry, I meant the
Yeah.
residence, I meant the house.
And my house is right up there.
Okay, I think I've been up in that area.
Everybody drives by.
Yeah.
And from Route 100, you can't actually see our house that easily, but what we'd be talking about doing is splitting somewhere in this area and having a house in this back corner, if possible.
Any other council member have a question to the applicant?
What's your total acreage?
1.3 acres.
That's including your house now?
Yep.
That's the whole lot?
1.2 to 1.3
Okay.
acres, somewhere in that.
Thank you.
And the house is located right at the top of the hill, and then there's a pretty
Yeah.
good-sized hill right
Yeah,
there.
I'm familiar with the property, so.
Yeah, the house has been there since 1920.
Bill, could you
so-
put up the zones?
Yeah.
So when this came to the ordinance committee, just as a measure, one of the things Ron was concerned about last week was about someone buying a property across the street from that. But if you look at, I think this more clearly answers that question that you had last week about what's to stop you from buying a lot over across the street and asking for it to be VMDR. And now with these colors, you can kind of see why it makes sense for that lot, but maybe not a lot across the street.
But in the VCC, there's residential homes as well. A residential home.
If no commercial use is allowed by DOT, or driveway.
So I guess I'm still confused.
I don't have any heartburn over this, really, one way or the other. I hate to see commercial land go by the wayside, and this is a very unique piece of property because it's at the bottom of a hill. There's terrible sight lines there. I mean, it certainly would not be safe.
And the house, if I'm correct, sits up high.
Oh, I mean, you'd get run over trying to pull out of a commercial business to try to get out on a Route 100. There's
Yeah.
no question about it. I mean, the house that he lives in used to belong to Getchell's, which he actually ran a printing business. We used to get bill heads made by him. He was a retired guy, very nice family. I mean, and he ran a small printing press out of there for years.
Yeah, it's in our garage.
Yeah. I mean, he's passed away now. His widow is still alive. She lives in Falmouth. So, I mean, I can go either way, I guess, if somebody can convince me.
Well, I hate to take the charge here, but I'll give you my 2 cents. When this application first came before us, I really didn't have a problem with it, and we voted unanimously to send it on to the planning board. My chance, now that I've had a chance to reflect on it and listen to particularly Ron's comments, I'm hesitant to move this forward or grant approval because it smacks me as giving you a financial gain at the expense of the loss of the lot there. So it's not, I'm struggling to decide whether, is there some reason other than personal financial gain to you for me to grant this request?
If I could use it for commercial use, I certainly would. I'm actually, run a real estate company, and if I could find some use for it, I gladly would. I've got another purpose that I would love to find to put a 10,000 square foot building somewhere, but any commercial use, nothing can go in this. That's the major issue. is the only thing I can see to do. And ideally, we just want to build a little bit larger house. It's a one-bathroom house, and, well, one bathroom's a little small. And there's no way to add, given where the house is, anything to where that exact house location. So that's why we're just thinking we'd like to stay in Cumberland, we'd like the area, just developing the area down below, just because there's no other use that I can think of for this particular property. Given all the issues with that hill, and there's just no access to it.
Mike?
Bill, can you remind me, because what happens when you get old, you're gonna find you forget stuff. Next door, we granted he bought some land from the board barn.
Yes.
What was needed? Because I know he wanted to expand.
Right.
He added more apartments.
Yeah, he had to get, he had to slice off the land that was adjacent to him to become, I think, VOC 1. So he kind of just the opposite of what was happening before. So the board barn was, I think, in the VCC, and we had to change that to VOC 1 to allow him to put the residential uses, the apartments, which were allowed. Multiplexes are considered commercial properties under our zoning ordinance. So that's why we had to go the other way in that case. And he would be the board barn was actually in the red, and the Emerald Commons, as you can see that little street there under the VOC 1 is where they are located. They needed a piece of their land to be converted to the VOC 1 for that to happen.
So in theory, if Mr. Haggerty wanted to buy some of this property,
Right.
he could theoretically, the way it is now, expand his apartment complex
Yes.
if he wanted to. So even if we didn't pass this tonight, somebody like Mr. Haggerty could come in and buy a piece of this and expand that apartment complex, correct?
They could, theoretically, yes. I'm not sure of the wetlands in between, but I think he's following a ridge along the upland area. Andy is right now, so I think he's going to be okay. And yeah, I think that is,
There is wetlands between our two properties, so there's no way he could drive from where he's currently is, because there's a pond at the bottom of that hill, adjacent to his property too, so there's nothing, it wouldn't be easy for him to get over there.
could you roll back that drawing one? I think the aerial might show that a little better. Yeah.
So there's a pond right in this area,
Yeah, okay.
and then this whole area is very wet down there.
How long have you lived in the house?
Since 2007 or 8, I think 2008.
Okay, and it's your primary residence, right? And what, if you could just remind me, your goal here would be to split these properties effectively in two?
Split the properties and then ideally just rent that top one and then build probably a smaller, like 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 bedroom house, 2 bath, something, probably about 1,800 square feet maybe. And I'd probably build it, I wouldn't build it close to 100, I'd build it back in this area.
Understood. And just to confirm, I think it's probably clear, but when you purchased the house in 2007 or 2008, it was currently zoned as it is now,
It
correct?
was in the process of changing zones, so I don't remember what it was when I bought it, but around that same time, the Route 100 corridor process was going through, so I don't know what it was previous, but then it got changed to this.
It was something like a highway commercial zone, similar to what the HC zone was, but it went only 100 feet back from the center line of Route 100.
Okay.
Is there anything preventing him from building another house on it without splitting the lot?
No.
Yeah,
No,
that was my question.
That's a good question.
The only VOC 1, the problem that gets into is just ownership when if you ever tried to split it. Under the current zoning, he could not, he would not have enough acreage to have 2 single-family dwelling units on it.
But if he switched zones, he would have enough?
VMDR drops it to 20,000 from 40,000, and then he would have enough acreage. And that's all he would have enough acreage for, is 1 more home. He'd have to be around 1.5-ish to get to another lot split. So he's at 1.3, which would only allow 2.
But without the split, am I understanding this correctly? Without the split, you would be unable to build the second home and also rent the
Yeah.
initial unit?
Wouldn't be able
No.
to do.
No, he could build a second home, but you could never sell it as 2 properties. It would always have to be sold as like a compound, if you will.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
That was my question. Thank you, Shirley.
So, help me a little bit here, Bill. We enriched the pockets of the owner of Emerald Drive by giving him a zoning change.
Right, because in the VCC, multiplexes are not permitted. He needed VOC1 property, so he bought the acreage and then asked you for a zone change, and that's what you did. You basically changed, I don't know, 20,000, 30,000 square feet of the VCC zone to VOC1 to allow the additional units for Mr. Haggerty to build on Emerald Commons.
So we're not exactly setting precedents here tonight.
No, neither one is a precedent. You've done it in other areas of town where the zoning was consistent. In this lot, it abuts the VMDR, so it's not like it's, you're not changing it to, highway commercial or something like that. So it kind of works.
Well, that makes it slightly more palatable. I don't like on the face of it, I don't like this. It smacks me as just an unnecessary lot change for your personal benefit. And I don't see any benefit to the community at large.
The town would get extra taxes. But this property doesn't have any other use. That's the biggest issue. Just given its proximity, the size of it, as he said, if it was just a little bit bigger, I could do something else with it.
Right.
But it's just small enough to sort of not have much use.
Yeah, the fact that you bought it as it was and knew the limitations of it, I'm not going to berate you, but you know where I'm coming
Oh,
from.
yeah.
Yeah, so, any further discussion? Lonnie?
This is a unique lot, and basically, his frontage on Route 100 doesn't do him any justice whatsoever. I mean, even if he was to build a home on the adjacent lot, he certainly wouldn't access it from Route 100.
Oh, no.
Nobody in their right mind would. The problem that I have is it doesn't pass the straight face test. I mean, we're creating 2 lots for personal benefit. I mean, that's the way I see it, and it may be the wrong way to look at it. You can build another existing home on it right now, but you'll never be able to sell it and live in the other one. You'll have to sell both of them. So, I mean, and I own a ton of commercial land. I'd love to be able to carve a lot off and sell a house on a minimal lot size and keep my business going, but can't do it. So, I mean, but my lot's on flat ground and it's not in the middle of a hill, so.
I think you said it perfectly of that. It's one of those where you can see why, but like technically it's just that can't do what the owner wants to do in perfect, right? The best case scenario. And by making the change, it's the best case scenario, but there's other mitigating circumstances.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to take you on your argument of making money. So when we allowed Mr. Haggerty, who does not live at the property, to change his zone to build more apartments, that was for his financial benefit as well.
That was my that's the point I'm making here, is
Yeah.
that we are not setting precedent.
And one might argue that a third of our property owners in town own their money to own their properties to make money off them. Very few of us are probably going to stay here forever.
Bob, but we allowed Mr. Haggerty to do that because he is offering affordable, single-bedroom apartments for seniors 55 and older. Yes, it is a privately owned, and he's doing it for profit, which he should be.
Thing on it.
And everybody in there is at least 50, 55, Shirley.
Okay.
Everybody, and it's single family, so there's no pressure on the schools. It was a good deal for us, really no draw for services. And that's why I was in favor of that. And the only reason he bought the land from the board bond, it was all swamp, because then he met the minimum to put that in, so
And we also gained a right-of-way, or
A
an
drainage
easement
easement.
for drainage.
we did. Very good memory.
Good memory, both of you. That helps. I'm not sure it helps my decision any, but it helps. Well, there's no easy, light going off here. Does anybody have a motion they'd like to make?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion. At least we get this thing to vote. Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the zone change request for property located at 10 Old Gray Road, tax map U21, Lot 2, from the Village Office Commercial 1 Zone, VOC 1, to the Village Medium Density Residential Zone, VMDR, as recommended by the Planning Board.
Second.
Motion's moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Just going to state, my vote is reluctant.
I would also like to just add a comment here. I think I came in tonight set to vote against this, just because when I ran for town council, one of the key issues I ran on was continuing to grow businesses in this town, and you go through the lot maps and you realize we don't have a lot of commercial office space zones left. And so my concern is that if we continue to change those zones for more residential uses, we run out of those spots that are on Route 100. I also understand the logic and the issues that you're running into here, so that makes it a little more difficult. I also understand that we have a need for more housing in our town, not less. And it sounds like you're effectively creating a rental house in that smaller lot. And so I think it's a difficult vote, but I'm very reluctant to change a commercial space to a residential space. But I do like the fact that you're potentially balancing that with additional housing potentially here in Cumberland. So I will get that out there. I don't know exactly how I'm voting on this, but thought I would say that.
Come on, Mark, you're supposed to give us some direction
I'm
here.
trying.
I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion?
Got it.
All opposed?
You got your lot.
Did I have an abstention in here?
No, 4-3.
4-3? 4-3, the motion carries with reluctance.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Very reluctant. All right, this I think will be a little bit more pleasant. Hold a public hearing for the purpose of gathering public input on the allocation of American Rescue Plan funds.
Oh, dear.
Let me scroll down the screen here.
Anyone? Bueller?
I think, Mr. Chair, the 4 categories are responding to public health emergency or its negative economic impacts, premium pay, which is for police police, fire, and EMS providers. The loss of revenues is the third category, and the fourth category is necessary infrastructure investments for sewer, water, broadband, or stormwater. Of those, we've heard from a couple of neighborhoods related to water mains. Also heard from a resident on Bruce Hill Road today, no, I'm sorry, on Range Road for the extension of the completion of that project that basically stopped at Bruce Hill Road and was supposed to continue out to Route 100 by J Brothers and loop in. That was a project we had on the horizon back in 2008. So those folks came in and, put their 2 cents in for water main extensions as well. Really, the only category that I basically submitted any information to you was related to the first category and the fourth category. We have no loss of revenue, so we don't qualify. And premium pay, not certain, but you may hear from our public safety organizations about that category. So my recommendation was that if all the employees weren't entitled to it, I didn't feel it fair that we just basically took half. So, but they may have other reasons they may want to present to you, and that's their right, and we're not in any hurry to do this. So I think, we just keep it open and maybe do this as part of the budget process as well.
Bob, can I start this off? I actually came in here tonight, this is part of the thing I've been dealing with the 50 units that I represent across the state getting these funds. There are funds going to police officers and other first responders everywhere from 2,000 to 5,000, depending on the county or municipality across the state. And it's pretty much, at least what I'm dealing with, it's uniform that places are getting this. I talked to a couple of you tonight before the meeting. For me personally, it would be irresponsible, based upon what's going on in Bruce Hill, Pleasant Valley Road, to designate these funds, other than maybe to some of it to our first responders, to designate anything other than this water problem we've got. We've got a chance to spend our money, at least designate it, and maybe with some funds we get other place, and get these people some water up there. This is an opportunity for us to help our neighbors. This is dire stuff that's going on up there, and it's only been, everybody's seen a pattern of this just getting worse and worse over the years. And for me personally, I can't support the money other than going to some of our first responders who worked the pandemic, who were out there day in, day out, didn't work from home, didn't work a shorter schedule. They were out there every day working, and I don't think a recognition of what they've done, and I've got a whole list of how these funds are being allocated across the state for our first responders, but I also think, for me, water has got to be priority number one.
Any other comment?
Okay, Ron.
Aye.
Just a question for the manager, Bill. I mean, it says premium pay to law provides for premium pay to public health and safety workers, healthcare, human services, and similar employees. I mean, if we were to, let's just say we're going to give our EMTs a bonus, that doesn't pass a straight face test to me if you gave it just to EMTs and not firefighters, not police department, not the girls out front that worked through the whole pandemic. I mean, so how would that work? I mean, if we went down that road?
So, back of the napkin, just, don't hold me to these numbers, but the average police officer would probably get between $5,000 and $6,000 of bonus pay. It's about $2 per hour for the course of a year, and it's specified in the law what you can do and what the period of time is. It's pretty clear from our legal counsel as well as MMA and just about every organization that this is intended for public safety personnel. So it would really be our EMTs, our firefighters, as well as our police officers, based on the number of hours they worked over that period of time. I haven't done the calculation for full-time paramedics and EMTs and firefighters, but I would think it would be, close to similar in that vein too. So just for the police department, it's somewhere around $45,000 to $50,000. I would think it would be probably half that for the fire department. And those would be the only ones that would be qualified to use the ARP money.
Okay, that was my question, so I mean,
And I've asked them to give me just a request, and then I could bring it to you as a council, and,
Yeah.
we could have guys here to talk about it. I would share with you that, I'm just gonna say it, I mean, think about what your recreation department did for you. I mean, they basically developed an entire program of schooling our kids and providing recreation services through a pandemic. Every single day that they weren't in school, they were out at this camp in North Yarmouth. And if it wasn't for the town of North Yarmouth, we would have never pulled that off. That was relief that, I don't know what those parents would have done without us. I mean, the library, the same thing. They basically were, they were open every day, basically getting out books as quick as they could, putting them in a decon room, and they were just trying to stay open. Unlike many, 90% of the communities in the state of Maine that shut down and barely opened up this year, we were open, as soon as we were allowed to open. I think it was June 1st, and we've never shut down. And the ladies you talk about, Mike, being our first responders, if you will, our ambassadors, were standing behind a sheet of poly that was protecting them from the public until we could get the glass barriers up. So it is emotional to me. It really is. And I have had similar discussions with them. But in fairness, Mike is absolutely right. Every community around us is dealing with the same struggle. And, they can tell you that, yeah, they were out there, and a lot of our guys are EMTs too, so they were going on the ambulance calls. You guys remember the very first night we had this, I sent you a note up in one of your units where we weren't sure that we might have been the first
Exposed.
COVID person exposed in Cumberland County that very night. Fortunately, it never happened. So there were lots of nights that everybody went home just wondering, did I catch it, did I not?
Right.
And we didn't do routine traffic stops. We suspended all that stuff, but we still went on emergency calls, and we were still first responding. So I'm not telling you that they shouldn't get it. I think that's your decision. It really is as the elected body, but personally, I have a lot of heartburn with all the time that people put in to make this happen. And make the success of the way we were able to get through the pandemic happen in a positive way to the residents of our community. I think of Abby Lombard. I mean, basically, she came in just about every day she could to help us with those car registrations, and she was the only one back there. And she was processing 5 times what we normally process because we had this big glut of people that wanted to come in and actually see people. And it's just, there's story after story after story that I can share with you on the municipal, non-public safety side that, just gives me a little pause and just says, I don't know how I tell this group of people you're more special than this group of people.
and that's why I'm asking the question. I mean, it's certainly, everybody that worked for the town of Cumberland bent over backwards to keep this place rolling. I
Right.
mean, not just the police department, but the girls out front, I mean, Public Works, everybody did their part to keep things moving. And certainly, if somebody was entitled, I would want to make it fair across the board that everybody was entitled.
But
which-
you can also do a 2-tier system as well. You could, the employee works 2,080 hours a year. There are some places, such as Somerset County, that have gone above. They're up around $5,000. We don't have to hit the $5,000 mark. If you did, for a set of group of people, $1 an hour for a certain period of time, some are doing up to 8 months, some are doing up to 15 months. We figure out that, you do $1 an hour. And if you're gonna do public safety and you're doing $1 an hour, it's $2,080. I think you can figure it out without breaking the bank, but I'd like to see something head their way. And I certainly Bill, your front staff, just amazing job during this whole thing. They really have. And I don't want that to go unnoticed either, but I think we can do it without buying them a new house.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree.
So,
Yeah, yeah. And I think the problem is that our hands are tied and your hands are tied of how you use the ARP funds.
Right.
And that's really where it comes to. So, you know, you can split that pie any way you like. It's really your call as the elected officials. I just have to make sure the 4 categories are met, and, you know, 3 of the 4 we're eligible for. So how you decide to do that is totally up to you. And there's no rush. There's no rush to do that, whether we do that in January or February as part of the budget process, or we do it before then. It's up to you. And then the rest is infrastructure. And we have a meeting with the TIF committee and with the finance committee coming up in, is it 2 weeks from tomorrow? From today, to discuss, you know, what's on the horizon. I'd encourage all of you to attend. I think it's really important stuff. That gets more to Mike's original point about the water monies and where those monies are used. Those are kind of important because of that 1 year that we basically wiped out our entire capital budget, and trying to catch up has been really difficult. So,
Do you anticipate more infrastructure money after that big bill was passed yesterday?
I do. And I would encourage you to come to that meeting in 2 weeks, because I'm hopeful that I'll have some more information. I think we'll be applying for a lot of the DOT monies that'll be coming down the pike, and I think that will lend itself to projects that we have that are truly economic development projects, and we can show you something hopefully in 2 weeks.
Like Middle Road North that we were going to do, you know, that goes to those businesses there.
We have that in the plan with the Water District as part of the
Okay.
county money. We also have asked for that. We've also asked for planning monies that we found out today from the National League of Cities and the county, the National County Organization that has said we could use some of this money for planning funds. They didn't like the term master plan, because that just signifies a plan on a shelf somewhere, not anything that's going to be implemented. But they were encouraged by, you know, if we had plans for specific areas that we wanted to tackle, that we should submit those for that area. So Bruce Hill would be an eligible project as far as I'm concerned. The Water District is also looking at putting in plans for the water tank we talked about that would service all of the West Cumberland pressure zones. So a lot of those things are now in play, and the 15th, the county grants are due, and then I'm expecting by the first of the year, we'll start seeing something from DOT.
What about sewer? Do we need sewer expansion anywhere?
Not really. It's a whole, because it's an enterprise fund, I'd discourage you from using that for right now. We are working with Falmouth on a proposal that's along the Route 100, the Route 1 corridor. There's a force main line that needs to be replaced that's along a stream. They're trying to get some monies for that. So we are working with Falmouth on that. But most of the sewer, I would probably encourage you more toward stormwater repairs that we talked about briefly in the Forsyth area that was scheduled to be paved next summer, that they could go hand in hand. If we did the stormwater repairs, we could pave the roads in the neighborhood as well.
So, Mr. Chairman, I just had a question on that one. So just to refresh my recollection here, if we allocated the portion of the funds to the stormwater repairs, that would not only get that issue resolved, it would also help with the paving of the roads there, and it would also help us replenish our TIF fund?
TIF funds, yep. Well, it would get us away from paying for paving from TIF for the short term until we got back onto the positive side.
Gotcha. And the water lines obviously are important. I think everybody agrees with that. We were all in those meetings. But $630,000, while helpful, seems like I guess, no pun intended, drop in the bucket here.
Yeah, it doesn't
Over
get
the total
you-
cost, right?
It gets you somewhat into the neighborhood, and if you remember the drawings we talked about, it gets you, when you get to the fork where the Valley Road and Bruce Hill go, it goes to the left, because that's where the pressure is okay. To the right, we have to put in a pump station to raise the pressure zone, and that's where most of the problem wells are on the right-hand side, on the Bruce Hills Road section. What we're going to find out is we're going to get away from anecdotal stuff. We're going to get to actual the conditions of the well, the locations of the well. We're going to get to a planning document that's almost 40% through design when we're done. So that's where I'm hoping that the county will fund that project, and then if we don't, then we should consider that as the first step, because we're going to have to do that anyway. So I'm hopeful that the county will step up and help us with that, because then I think we'll be going in the right direction. But when you're looking at a $500,000 pump station, and you're talking about 6 or 7 or even 800,000, all of a sudden, the lion's share of what you have is gone. And to get to that pump station, you also need, 1,500 or 2,000 feet of water main to that pump station. So you've run out of money before you even started the project in some ways to help the people that probably need it most. But I think it's a good project. I think it's, like I said earlier, it's been on our CIP since 2009. It's been in the comp plan, so it's been identified a lot of areas. But I think to Allison's point initially was, well, have we ever looked comprehensively, and how have we ever prioritized this? And how we have prioritized it, honestly, has been who's filled the room.
Yep.
And that's been and that really shouldn't be how we drive our infrastructure projects. And to date, we should be looking at other projects, and I think comprehensive look is not a bad thing.
If I'm pretty sure I'm correct on this, in the recently passed plan, there is money for broadband too. I think there's $10 billion that have been designated, so we may be able to get some funds out of that. So as far as I'm concerned, at least with the money that the town got, we can erase the regional broadband, take that out of there and put that towards one of the project, either stormwater or water lines. And
Well, the only intent there, Mike, was so that we could participate with our neighbors and maybe more of a regional approach to the broadband piece of it, and not have to go individually as like one community, maybe join up with Falmouth and Yarmouth and North Yarmouth, and all of us basically throw something into the pot, so we have one consultant, one attorney, one engineer, basically kind of designing a grid for maybe 4 towns instead of 1. But that's, I think every town around us has put like 10% of their funding. And maybe it doesn't have to be that high. Maybe it could be, a token amount to at least put us in the game. But at some point in time, we're going to have to front some of that money for the design. And what does that mean? I really don't know yet. I don't know how high a high-speed internet line will be. We have dark fiber down on Route 1 that basically needs to be lit. And when that's lit, it'll certainly give our schools and businesses in town a big boost, because that will really increase capacity there. But how that happens, I don't know, and I don't think anybody has really thought about it yet. But you're absolutely right. That'll be a huge push, at least in this state. But I think to Shirley's point last time is that, we're complaining about what we have for download speeds, and other areas don't even have the ability to download. So it's going to be interesting how the state allocates their money, but there's still going to be monies available that won't go spent, and I would rather take that opportunity to spend it here to upgrade our facilities.
It would be interesting to know how many kids at Penquist High School actually had internet at home. Probably 5%, we can't always think myopically on this. I know it's our fiduciary responsibility, but they're going to get our tax dollars one way or another.
But broadband will be a really hot topic, and it'll be very quick out of the gate too, I believe. I think a telco is in this area now. I know they were at all the professional conferences in the last year, really pushing hard. And, when we're paying $600 a month for a fiber line connection to the road, just so we could run our computers and our phone system, I mean, there's definitely going to be some savings in the future.
Yeah, but there's also some added concerns. I have a friend who's involved with Homeland Security, and network security is going to be a major, major issue in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, it still is. It is today.
My understanding is there can be radiation that's sent out to some of these satellites that are helping us that would wipe it all out. And these are coming, this information's coming from like economists, not from the people who like to scare us.
So there is nothing that keeps this money in any bucket. It's all
Okay.
up to you. It's just really on how you want to set it. So if there seems to be no movement in broadband or no movement in this area, that movie, all you got to do is push the money into another area. As long as it's used for a qualified expense, why not use it so that it gets, something gets done versus just sitting there?
Can I ask a question? I know this is about getting input from the public on where we thought might be creative ways to use this, and I know we'll have some time to kind of allocate it to a particular bucket. Did we put something out in communication or to folks asking for their input? I mean, clearly, there's not a lot of folks here tonight giving us their thoughts on this, and so I was just curious about that.
Well, we put it in the crier, kind of put it out there that we have 4 buckets. This is a public hearing. We would love your ideas. So that was this week. We were hoping if we got some ideas that then we'd be able to like common theme and do a pulse survey on it if we had different ideas. I mean, it feels like, so like kind of digress, it feels like timing wise, it would behoove us to even just wait even a couple months to kind of see where things start shaking out more globally. I think it's good timing for budget. So even to the point you made, Mike, like I'm looking at this and like it feels like a shell game, but still if like because of budgeting, we technically for ARP funds put it towards senior tax funding, but really then it frees up dollars that are normally in our budget for senior tax to be able to potentially make all of our employees receive a bonus, right? Because we can't fund it all through ARP, right? Like, so does it make our budget look similar because we're leveraging these funds that technically have to go to one bucket instead of another? But, I mean, just the timing, and there's so many moving pieces. I think it's a great discussion. I appreciate you putting it in front of us so early so that we can start thinking about it and being part of discussions and making sure we're thinking about it for budget for some things that kind of are timely. We want them to be timely and not so far down the pike, but I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get any. I know I didn't receive any additional emails or anything either. I don't know if anyone else did directly. So,
There's no hurry. So
Right.
we have 2 years to spend the funds. Honestly, we could spend it all next summer if we wanted to on paving and stormwater and, repairs that we can outline pretty quickly, or on, funding the water study or whatever. I mean, you definitely have some options, and I would encourage you to exercise all the county money and state money that may be coming first before we dip into our buckets.
Right.
And, because we can always reimburse ourselves, so
Yep.
I'm not worried about that either, so.
And just to be clear, the funds for the water study on Bruce Hill Road, that would be done through county funds, correct?
If we're successful in
In
receiving
getting
a
this,
grant.
gotcha,
yeah.
okay, so that wouldn't be baked into this analysis, okay.
No. That's why I said it may come back to you through the budget process if it isn't successful. Then you could use your portion of ARP funds if you chose to, but I
Yep.
encourage you first to go through the state, through the county piece first.
Okay.
Because the county has $43 million, and they're only putting, I think, out less than 10 million this time, so.
that's going to be my question. I know some things had to be in already.
On the 15th.
15th.
Yep.
Is there any sense of like how quickly they're going to come back? Okay.
No, I think they'll appoint a committee to review the applications, and then probably might be even by the first of the year, depending
Okay.
with the holidays and stuff.
Okay. Better than I thought.
And the county funds are also what we discussed in terms with Counselor Kopp here about some of the open for business initiatives we've been talking about as well, right? Was that county we were talking about?
Those
in
are
term-
more, that's going to be more the DOT, ARP funding.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
My 2 cents on bonuses. I watched the people that worked at Hannaford and Shaw's, and, that's a frontline worker. We all sign on to take a job and do our job, and, I'm with Mike. I'd rather spend the money on water line extension where I think that's the most important place to be spending our money for, and, you know, I think when you talk about bonuses, you say, well, who gets it and who doesn't get it, and it's, you know, we all get it or nobody gets it.
It is hard too, when we're trying to recruit and retain people too, that are, you know, could leave tomorrow for another organization for $5,000 or $10,000 signing bonus, but they've chosen to stay here. We do treat our employees fairly, we really do. I think we have a good contract for all our employees and good working conditions, and I think we have a fair personnel policy, and I think everybody who stays for a while. So it's a good town to be in and work for and be part of. So there's that quality of life and quality of work life as well, and I think we do very well there. But it'd be irresponsible of me not to tell you that it's out there. And I think Mike deals with this every day, and everybody knows what everybody else is getting, and they're saying, you know, what's happening and why aren't we eligible for the same type, which, you know, Yarmouth or South Portland or Freeport or others are getting. And it's hard. It really is hard because, you know, employee loyalty is fairly strong here. And, you know, there's a reason for that. And I think we've done well by our employees. But, you know, if we're talking about, you know, $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever it is, it's a lot different story than if we're talking about $10,000. So, you know, let's see what happens, let's see what they come back with, and then we can evaluate it and decide whether it's, you know, a responsible use of the funds or not. And, you know, like I told you, I'd love to be able to give it to everybody, and a thank you for what we put up with, because it's not over yet. So that's the other piece. And if I know you guys read a lot, so, you know, when 59% of the workforce is considering other lines of employment these days, I mean, that's out there as well. We want to be careful and hang on to the people we have, because we have some very, very special people and talented people in this community. So I'd like to keep them for as long as I can.
All right. So, new business. Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got a couple things here. First, I wanted to echo, a few weeks ago, the school board Chair Tyler McGinley was in here and talking about the need for some folks to apply for ed tech positions at the school. And so I just wanted to make a public announcement again that MSAD 51, Cumberland and North Yarmouth, are looking severely for ed tech professionals, educational technicians 3 and educational technicians 2. MSAD 51 offers competitive benefits, holiday pay, paid vacations, school vacations off, course tuition paid up front, opportunities for summer work are also available. Ed Tech 2 positions require 2 years of college, 60 credits. Ed Tech 3 positions require 3 years of college or 90 credits. And there are full and part-time K through 12 positions available. So if you're interested, please reach out to somebody at MSAD 51 and inquire about that. I also wanted to give a brief update. I think a couple weeks ago, we had a meeting on our senior property tax assistance program, kind of the phase 2 of it, if you will. I'm very hopeful that now we should be able to get you something in December, I think, if that seems reasonable. I believe the town manager, maybe after this meeting, we can touch base and figure out what the next steps are on that. But we should be able to have something nice, little printout presentation on where we're at, what the numbers are, what we're thinking in terms of kind of an offering there. On the Open for Business initiative that Councilor Kopp and I are working on together, we've talked with the town manager. We've kind of gone through a map of a lot of the properties that are available for business. And we are now kind of honing in a little bit more on some particular areas in the town that if certain funds become available, that we might be able to leverage to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? Be able to create bigger infrastructure project investments while at the same time promoting a location that businesses might want to come into. And then finally, on affordable senior care facility here, it was about a month ago that we met with Eric Jorgensen from Maine State Housing here. I've sent an email today, which you, I believe, were just copied on, to get contacts at the Office of Aging and Disability Services, because if most folks remember, I think one of the missing pieces here is we're trying to figure out the care side of things and where funding might be able to come from the care side of things. And so maybe they'll be able to provide us with some additional information, and we'll touch base after we hear back from them. So, thank you.
Really?
I'll just follow up. I sent you all an email of what I learned about Westbrook. Quite an amazing operation they have over there, and I think we've heard over and over again that if we're going to move forward, we need a partner. And so I think if down the road we're moving in that direction, we might consider, not that we need Westbrook, okay, there's Westbrook Housing Authority, and then there's Westbrook Development Corporation that builds and provides the services. And they partner with different businesses like builders and architects, and that we might consider talking to them about how they get those monies to do the projects. There certainly is an economy of scale. They have 14 buildings and 900 units or something over the city. So I'm thinking that in their senior housing, they probably can afford to hire housekeeping staff because of the economy of scale. But impressive. Take a look. I'm curious about the Ed Tech 2s. I'm
Yep.
going to have to ask that when we meet with the board tomorrow night, because we've eliminated, I think back when, in your time, all Ed Tech 2s were eliminated, and we went with just Ed Tech 3s. So it must be,
I think it's a drastic need that they need it.
they need
I mean,
to
yeah, it's just a-
cover, I know, I've seen that, and I've seen it all over social media, and they must need coverage for recess duties and those kind of things, because Ed Tech 2s
Preparation.
do not work with students directly,
Traditionally.
traditionally.
Yeah.
And they can't, they need to be supervised if they're working with children, where an Ed Tech 3 can work with a small group of students. We had a Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting on Thursday evening last week. As you know, Valhalla's made money this year. It was interesting. The thoughts are part of the reason it did a little better than break even. It didn't make bundles of money, but was because of COVID, and we need to consider that when we're doing our budget in the following year. We have to look at that carefully, because other people in the community are looking at it carefully. But Pete Bingham was saying that, you know, there would be people who would come in at 5 o'clock and try to play a round of golf, but with COVID and lifestyle changes, some of those 5 o'clock people were saying, I think I'll go out for a round at lunchtime, or I'm working from home. So it sort of spread out the use. Plus the software we invested there was helpful. Some other the golf camps, we're now running them ourselves rather than paying the USPGA or whatever it was, thousands of dollars for nothing. So that has helped. So overall, recreation has done really well this year. We're looking at, or they're looking at, there's some sort of playground at Twin Brooks. We've talked about it a little bit. There would be some fundraising. I'm just sort of putting that out there. I'm really kind of opposed to the idea, because I like Twin Brooks just as open space. But there have been many requests for something for little kids to do while the older kids are playing lacrosse or playing soccer or whatever. Numbers for soccer this fall were amazing for kindergarten through second grade. Numbers for third through fifth grade have been more tentative across the board in recreation programs. So those are some interesting things I learned at the meeting we had last week. I've encouraged Pete to come to the LCC meeting. That's next Monday, just to hear what plans are for trails and stuff. I think there needs to be a little bit more collaboration between our actual rec department and LCC. And I think that's all I have for new business. Oh, no, I don't. We met for an hour and a half before the meeting tonight on the ordinance, just on the marijuana registered caregiving license. I think we will probably have a workshop, like, with the attorney, and then that night have a public hearing, first of 2 public hearings. So we can go through this document paragraph by paragraph. It's really fantastic. The attorney, Ben McCall, from our contracted attorneys, did a great job, has already shared it with one other colleague who said it might be the best one in the state at this point. And I'm proud of it because we've been working on it a long time. These are all the different versions of things we've considered. I'm turning into a Steve Moriarty here. And that's all I have.
Tom?
Yeah, a few things. The Cumberland, the crossings are going very, very well. And I just need to say that, you know, it appears that it's going to be in December. It's going to go quiet, which is great. And Mikey did a great job in the article the other night, so thank you. The Lands and Conservation Commission met the other day, and I think they have something scheduled here with us soon, don't they?
Next Monday.
It's next Monday, yeah. Okay. The food pantry is doing very, very well, and I got to tell you, just a shout out to the volunteers that we had, and also I'd like to thank Mike Eads again for his donation with the moose meat. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate it. And Veterans Day is coming upon us. I think it's this week, isn't it? It is this week. And I just shout out to all the veterans. So thank you. Appreciate it. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Tom. I'm going to skip you.
Oh, okay, great.
It's not deliberate, but it is, because I think that Allison and I both are going to coordinate here together, so we'll come back to.
I've got nothing, Bob, other than just kind of echo what Tom talked about. Veterans Day is coming, and it doesn't go unnoticed that you and Tom are veterans. And we very much appreciate your service to the country. I've got a kid serving overseas. It's important. Service is something to be proud of, and I'm very proud of you, too.
Thank you.
Tom, thank you for your $20, and here's my $20 for the 4-H food pantry. Just one thing for the manager. I realize that the Tuttle Road overpass over 295 is posted now to 25 tons. Obviously, that's going to be repaired at some point or replaced. I mean, and the only reason I'm bringing it up, Bill, when they replace it, will they make a walking path, make it wider than it is now?
That was my question to the bridge engineer, and he said it will not be as crazy as it is now, because right now it's not safe. I mean, the concrete curb is at basically the guardrails at your knee height, so that's going to be fixed. I think it's going to be a paved shoulder across there and not a curb.
Okay.
So,
And that's just food for thought, I mean, when it comes to.
yeah, the project won't go out for 2 more years to bid, so we'll have time to have some input as well, because that's what I asked him. I said, I would really appreciate to see 5-foot paved shoulders across there, because if you've ever ridden a bicycle across there, it's 2,000 feet of fun,
Right.
so.
And if you
You
meet
pump real hard.
meet a person walking with a car coming the other way, you literally have to stop.
It's not
Because
good.
it is not safe.
It's not good.
So. that's all
Fun
I have.
fact, I've taken a horse over that bridge a few times.
You're brave.
You are
They
brave.
did not like it,
No, I
What,
don't
the
like
horse?
walking
the
on it.
horse.
Yeah.
They were kind of spooked by it.
Hang on,
Over to
you
the
can-
Wildwood 4th of July parade.
Can I do 2 regular new business first?
You're on.
Okay. So First is, just wanted to share, I had the honor of representing all of you with the MS 8051 fifth graders last Friday. They were wonderful. They had really great questions, so hopefully I've inspired some new folks. So if you see any little faces ever in the audience, hopefully they're watching all from home. But they were very sweet, super engaged. I look forward to a time when whichever one of us is doing it, we can go in the classroom because it was a Google Meet. So I actually couldn't see their faces because I was sharing my screen. But they asked really great questions, and so I was honored to do that, and it was really great. And my son still loves me, so we're good. The other is just a reminder that I think it's next Tuesday. So it's November 16th. Yes, so it's Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 in kind of continuing the message of Smash the Stigma to local North Yarmouth businesses, New Frontiers Chiropractic, and let me find Shauna, Zen Center, Acupuncture, again, both in North Yarmouth. They are sponsoring and hosting a family fun trivia night from 6:30 to 7:30 at the North Yarmouth Community Center. So a little info about what they do and how that kind of goes into kind of the whole mental wellness and mental health, and kind of how they can kind of support some kind of well-being relative to mental health and wellness, but also just really the point being about some mental health, about being together and having fun. So that's the main objective. Those are my two. Which one, what do you want to hit first, sir?
Let's talk about the survey.
Okay. I left these on your seat, so you each have a copy of this. This is relative to the comp plan. So I think I sent it out. Shirley, I apologize that I wasn't able to connect with you live. But I guess the 2 points I wanted to make was relative to kind of the refresh of the survey that we're talking about doing now, in leveraging the survey that was done 14 years ago, is really taking advantage of the unique opportunity to compare, right? So not rehashing questions, but literally, other than ones that are very much not pertinent anymore, right? Like, should we purchase Knights Pond property? Like, we don't have to ask that question again. But really taking the opportunity to put it back out to the community in pretty much its original state, to be able to do a side-by-side.
Did you send that to us?
The survey itself? No.
Okay.
That is the first step, would
Okay.
be for us to look at it in its groupings and kind of be able to rank the questions individually of high importance or meh, not really important anymore, so that we could get it. We're just waiting for kind of how efficiently we can get those, because right now we only have it in hard copy form. So I know, Bill, we're hoping to get it in electronic form, so it's a lot easier to get it out to all of us. So there's that piece, and then the other is in looking at that comparison to kind of get a high-level sense of what areas of the comp plan should we refresh? Because I think we talked about this a couple meetings ago, and the last one too, that not looking at this of being a soup to nuts comp plan, because the work that was done was so comprehensive and detailed and really well done that, doesn't feel like we have to start from scratch. There's just certain areas that need a refresh or an update, because we've completed a lot of the sections. I think so that's kind of this initial survey, but also saying that this wouldn't be the one and only, right? That once we have a sense of the areas of refresh, and as a council can give that guidance, then it's form the appropriate committees, they take charge of more detailed surveys and kind of take it from there. So this is really just the first step in the process to kind of be able to be informed as we give guidance of what areas need to be refreshed, so that it's not just kind of our own biases of where we think it should.
I think one of the advantages of today versus where we were 14 years ago is we have the electronic method of reaching out to people and getting a lot more input, and I think we're not taking the place of the Comprehensive Plan Committee, but this is a way of benchmarking, you know, how in-depth do we want to go? Do we need to have a full comprehensive plan committee up and running? Can we break it down into chapters, or these are the areas that we think that we want to do more, and have a select committee? So I guess I'm using this as a stepping stone. So,
I have concerns about this only around accessibility to a survey. You know, people will, my family finds following the Cumberland North Yarmouth Facebook page somewhat entertaining sometimes, just for the comments and for what people don't know when they're making comments on there. But then I point out that the entire Facebook page only has 2,900 members, and that's like, we have 18,000 people in our combined communities, roughly. No, 85 and 12,000. So it's like a 25%. So I don't want it just to be accessible to the people who are on Facebook or who get the Cumberland Crier, or, you know, we're going to have to do a good job reaching people who are, because we are the oldest community in town, and we have to, in the state, and we have to plan for that not every senior citizen wants to sit at a computer and fill it out.
We talked last week, Bill, Whitney, Ron, and I, about reaching out to Brian Roberts, who was one of the gentlemen that we'd originally worked for the firm, do the survey. And so I think we're hoping to kind of, whatever group of us can get with him in a couple weeks, to see if, you know, we're not having to rehash the survey and recreate it, so there should be a cost savings there. But is there, by having him provide some service in administering the survey, compiling the data, and providing some high-level analysis, is that a cost-effective when we think about all the time that we would be doing? And then to your point, Shirley, the accessibility, ensuring that there's an opportunity for all members to be able to get to it, but also ensuring that there's a way to kind of keep track and ensure that we're not having, you know, so-called stuffing of the ballot box either, that it's.
Well, with surveys, you always have to question the validity, you know, and I look at it and I think, oh, we want people to fill this out over the Christmas holidays. Have we thought that all the way through? You know, mid-November and close it in mid-January, mid-December. Just those little things I think we need to talk about.
Have
And
we
is
ever
that meeting in the next, I thought it was tomorrow or Wednesday maybe?
Looks like it's going to be heading toward Wednesday.
Okay.
This might be a question for Whitney, but have we ever gone through, the list of individuals who live in the town, and then compared that to who subscribes to the Crier? Because the Crier is what, how many people do we have?
3,400?
So close to,
Yeah.
not
I think
50,
what's
but
hard
40.
is like, I don't think they have to do a name at all.
Oh,
It's just an
gotcha.
email address.
That's what I was gonna think too, okay.
Yeah. And like, it's hard, it helps us understand, clearly the increase in subscribers, that's been over the last few years. But even like, example, my husband and I, like, both have an email address in there, right? So it's clearly not a one-to-one for household, but it does give us a sense of, you know,
Yeah,
that
and
it's a good number.
there's inexpensive ways to get it out there as well as more expensive ways. And I feel like the ones that are more expensive, we should use a little bit more targeted,
Right.
right? And I think we all agree.
Another thing we did with the last survey is we coded them not for addresses, but for parts of town, to see that we had all parts of town well represented. So there are all these like quirky little things that keep popping into my head. So I don't want to be a naysayer per se, but I want us to do work that's efficient and valid.
Thanks for putting this together. It's helpful to visualize it.
our hope too, so that you'll see this again tomorrow evening, is also to kind of put it out there for MS 8051 to understand what it is, but also North Yarmouth. So they've recently gone through a similar, I'm trying to think, not the survey. It's probably, sorry, they're a few years out, but for them to like understand what our process is and the things that we're thinking about. So really just, so they kind of had a sense of, here's what we're thinking our timeline looks like, so that it's on their radar, is really the kind of goal of this being an agenda item tomorrow.
So, tomorrow, I think, is an opportunity for us to look at the faces around the room and try to get to know them. I think one of the things that Allison and I have been trying to do here with our meeting with the school leadership and North Yarmouth leadership is just to spend face time with people and to get to know them a little bit better and not so much interject or inject our desire to get something done, because it's that's always there staring us in the face. But I think that it's important for us to start to build a relationship with the school board and build a relationship with the folks in North Yarmouth, so that they get tired of seeing us. The 15 years that I spent on the school board, and I watched the interaction between the towns and the school board, and it really was just very minimal. It wasn't comprehensive. It wasn't collaborative. It was just, well, this is our yearly pat each other on the back and we'll go our separate ways. And so I'm hoping that tomorrow night we can just extend the hand of friendship, but also engage people and have conversations that aren't necessarily official in the room, but one-on-one, reach out to people that that we don't know, and and say, hey, how you doing? And let's sit down and have a cup of coffee sometime. The enormity of what's in store for us, if we look at how do we engage the school board in moving forward with this and this new school project, and that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about. Is they want to know what we're going to have for questions. They don't want to answer the questions tomorrow night, but they wanted us to develop a source of questions. And one of the things that jumps right out at me is what are you designing for a new school up there? Are you designing flexibility of space, flexibility of programming, and how does it flex with community needs? It's a 70-acre piece of land up there, and so there's certainly lots of room for discussion about what that looks like 10, 15, 20 years forward. Some of the other questions that come to mind is how do we engage the professionals in this community, engineers, architects, that can collaborate with the school design and encourage them to use available resources in the community, because at the end of the day, I'm jumping all over the place, but we want to have an accurate assessment of what this is going to cost, because the school says they want our support. Well, we're willing to give you our support, but tell us the truth. What is the cost? What is the operating cost? What is the maintenance cost? How many more staff? And how are you planning this project? And how can we collaborate with staff? North Yarmouth staff, Cumberland staff. I think there's ways to help bring that cost down. But anyway, so I'd hope that you'll reach out to Westbrook and maybe ask them if we can get somebody come visit us.
I'm happy to do that.
Because I think there's some avenues for us to move forward, and having that conversation with the two ladies from, I forget where they came from, but one of the things that I came away from was thinking of expansion of services at our apartments. We have a commercial kitchen right up on the hill, and is there opportunity for us to start delivering meals to some of our residents down there, and what that might look like, and how we can move that idea forward too. So I think Westbrook probably has a lot to offer us. Next week, Lands and Conservation Committee meeting. I hope everybody's there. I think this is a very important meeting. I think there's a lot of, I view that as, you know, the meeting we had with the planning board, in the same vein, but I think some of the topics are even more important for the future of the community, and I think they can have a real impact on that. I think that's all I've got. Anybody else?
You want a motion to go into executive session?
I do.
Mr. Chairman, I move we go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRRSA, Section 405-6C, reference real property.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous.
So you want to just announce we're going to be off the air, and then we'll adjourn after the executive session? Because could you just announce that we will be off the air, and we will adjourn after the executive session?
To all those who are viewing us from home, we are going to go off the air for executive session, and we will resume back on air following our executive session.
We're not coming back on air.
We're not coming back on air.
Not
We're-
going-
Good night. Thank you.